And good morning. We have a very special guest to this week's show, and I think you all know her. You've seen her all over the country. It's Laura Blackmer, who is the president, I believe, of Channel Sales for, if that's the correct title, please correct me.
Close. President, dealer sales. But yeah, close.
Dealer Sales for Konica Minolta, my alma mater. So, Laura, thank you very, very much for joining us today. I know it's the end of the year for you. We're very honored to have you.
It's so great to be here. I've watched some of these episodes. I love the style that you bring to them. And yes, it's definitely, we're down to day 6 minus, but honestly, it's nice to have a little break and to get to spend some time with you and talk about something other than what does it look like? What are the numbers? So it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're going to give you a break. So all the traditional questions, we're going to park all supply chain things and all those stuff. We'll just set that aside.
Okay.
But so for the audience, again, we're very grateful to have you on the show. It's been an exciting year already this year. But just a little bit of background about Laura. If you don't mind, for the people that don't know you, where'd you come from, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I will say, anybody who's heard me say it before, it's a good time to get a cup of coffee or get a refresh of your water. I'm going to give the same story, but and maybe I'll embellish a little bit. So I don't know how many, and Mike, I don't know if you know this, but I actually went to school to be a veterinarian. That was my dream. I was going to fix puppies and kitties and, had this vision of how cute that would be. And the reality of veterinary medicine is very, very different. And I also ran out of money, which, that became a problem. So I went to work for a very small company in Boston and found my way, in a very weird way, I won't bore you with the details, but found my way managing a group of manufacturers representatives. I don't know if you remember what they were, but they would go out and rep your product to catalogs and stores like Fry's and get your product placed and, all that stuff. And I ended up just by default because of I was that employee managing them. And I was like, wow. And they were all, way, way older than I am at the time. I was very young. I was like 18. And I loved it. And I thought when I realized that maybe veterinary medicine wasn't the way to go, maybe business, which I didn't come from a business background. No one in my family came from a business background, very medical group. I thought, I'm really going to be busting out of the mold here. So I went back to school, got a business degree, got hired right out of college into NCR. Was there a very short time, just enough to, they said, you cost us each $150,000. I sold my $150 and I was gone. And then I went to work for Hewlett Packard. And it was Hewlett Packard at the time. That's how the logo was, for those of you that are around way back in the 80s. And it was a channel sales job. They didn't call it that because they didn't know what channels were, but I was selling laser jets into business land and computer land and other small resellers in New York City. And I found that I loved it. I'm still friends with a lot of the people I sold to, almost 40 years ago. And I found that I had a knack for it. I had a knack for building relationships. I had a knack for getting through tough situations without destroying relationships, which is hard. And I was there for 20 years. And, Mike, I probably have told you this. I actually feel like Hewlett Packard, I was there. I was lucky to be there when Hewlett Packard was a great company. Not that they're not a great company today. It was very different. There was a lot of investment in people, investment in women in particular. It was, they were always in the top 100 companies for women to work for. They were very accommodating for women who were starting families. I mean, it was an amazing place, and I got a lot of mentorship. I know we'll probably talk about mentors, but I got a lot of mentorship from some phenomenal leaders. People again that I still talk to today. I still ask, give me some advice. And then I sort of wavered. I went to a startup for a little while. I took some lovely time with my family when my kids were little. And then I worked for a company in the barcode business, a little different nuance to selling to channels. But then Sharp found me. And I was recruited into their organization. I had no idea what this business was about. I kind of danced around it, but I didn't really understand it intimately, obviously. And then, I spent 5 years at Sharp, great years, loved working there. But I think the thing that I loved the most was the dealers. and getting to know them and realizing that this is, again, it's like I came home. I don't know how else to describe it. And then when the opportunity, after Sharp was sold and the opportunity came to come to Konica Minolta, I jumped at it. And yeah, it's been a great move. I love it here. I love the dealers I work with. But it's funny, I still have such great friendships with dealers that I worked with at Sharp. And to me, that's kind of the common theme, is that, building these long-term relationships with these resellers or VARs or dealers, whatever you want to call them. That's what differentiates, I think, someone who likes being in a channel job versus a direct selling job. I just love it, and it feeds me, frankly. So that's my entire history in 2 minutes and 35 seconds. But
so talking a little bit about the dealers, you've got a great base, right? A fan base. If you don't mind, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit, but everybody thinks the world of you. You. When I do the podcast, people come out like Stephanie Keating. They say things, and you're a mentor to a lot of dealers, male and female. And when you look at your experience inside this channel, and like you said, you start to grow these relationships over 5 or 10 years. What strikes you as you enjoy it clearly, but what makes you think, wow, these guys, these ladies, these guys, they really got their stuff together and they can handle anything that comes at them? And a lot of stuff has been thrown at them lately. So what is it that you see in this channel that makes all of us, and especially you who manage it, go, you know what, we're in a good place. We're going to go forward.
That's a good question, Mike. I think, there's some really common threads to the people in this channel. One of them is, for the most part, I still say that I'm the new kid. I'm only now 10 years in the channel. I'm still relatively new, especially in a leadership role, to this channel. The people that are in this channel were kind of born here. Either in many cases, their parents may have started a typewriter company, office supply company. There's so many different, beginnings, but they were all entrepreneurs. Almost to a one, right? All entrepreneurs, all built a business with a high risk. They took the risk, and in many cases they took real risk, like they did personal risk. They had houses up, they had second mortgages. Their wives or family members were in the business at the same time, not getting paid, by the way. So I think there's like this, they always say when you're in an experience, a shared experience, especially one that's got a fair amount of risk in it, there's a bonding that takes place, and even if you don't know each other, that shared experience. Yeah, I watch it with dealers all the time that haven't met, and they meet for the first time, and they immediately have a common thread throughout. It's like they've known each other forever. It's really fun to watch, actually, when you can bring people together and sort of. And I know you do this so well, right? Which is bringing people together, but watching people who never met before and yet have this common thread really find a bond. And I feel kind of lucky. I sort of insert myself, right? I sort of say, hey, I'm not from here, but I get it. I get the experience. I didn't experience it myself, but I understand it. And I think that makes a big difference in it. When I watch these dealers, even now the second generations or the third generation, they grew up with it. They grew up with their parent being immersed in the business, sometimes being gone for days at a time, trying to find ways to make that business successful. And so they know what it took. And I think even though we're not at the original entrepreneur level, there's still that entrepreneurial spirit. That to me is what sets this channel apart from, and I'll use like the general technology of our channel. And the reason why is many of the people you deal with in that channel are not the original creators of the business. Those people are long gone. And you're dealing with large companies like giant distributors and giant direct marketing firms like CDW. Here, even at the biggest companies we have, and you know who they are, you're still dealing, in many cases, with the person that either founded the business or took the business from point A to point B, like this. So I think that's a really unique characteristic of this channel. But it's something I'm drawn to, and it's something that I find really fascinating. And you know what? It makes you want to root for them. It makes you want them to be successful and fine. And I think that's maybe what I bring to the table a little bit, is that sense of, God, I want them to be successful. It's not a win-lose. It's, I want you to win, and I'll do whatever I can to help you get there. So I think that's what makes it such a unique engagement, different from other channels, like retails or anything else that I've run across in my career.
Yeah, that's such a great description. I mean, for lack of better definition, it is a brotherhood, and sisterhood, right? So there is this kumbaya kind of. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but they all suffer. Hey, we got to get cash flow. We got to make payroll. We got to get investment. We get all the decisions are the same, and the risks are somehow similar.
Yep.
And I'm kind of curious when you think about that. And I wanted to come back to another thought I had, but I need to park it a little bit later. But when you look at it, ECS actually is kind of founded on float all boats. How do we help the industry, be agnostic and basically provide, better opportunities for people to make money and grow. So when you look at, I mean, just today, there was an announcement I saw from Andy Slawetsky about what's going to happen, in your new year, right, the new fiscal year. Toshiba just was, I don't know what happened. I only read it briefly, but it
Yeah.
looked like a conglomerate that came in and acquired, Toshiba.
Yep.
So when you look at those things, how important do you think those things are to you and to the dealer? Or is it just, hey, it's just chapter 2?
Well, I think it's somewhere in the middle, honestly. I think, the reality is there's a lot of people in this business, and it's a great business, and because it's a good business, right? And here's another sort of differentiating thing, I think. The relationship between manufacturer and dealers is really solid. Should be solid, but it is really solid because these dealers have invested. You can't just decide, you know what, today I'm selling the blue notebook, not the black notebook. You can't make that decision. You have to make really hard decisions about who you're going to invest in and what you're going to bring to market for your customers. You have to believe in the product. You have to believe in the company. You have to believe in the people that are supporting you. And because you're putting your business, and I'll be a little dramatic, at risk by that choice, right? If you make a wrong choice, it's painful and it's a lot of work to unwind, right? If you make a good choice, everybody's happy. So I think to some degree, it is important. It's very important. I know the dealers are as invested in our success as we are in theirs because they've invested a lot. I mean, I have dealers that have a huge MIF of KM product, and when we ran into our troubles last year, and I know you weren't going to ask me these questions, but let's not ignore the elephant in the room. But they were worried, but they were just as worried. They were worried about their companies, they were worried about their customers, but they're also worried about us as a company. They want us to make it through this, and thank goodness we did. But yeah, so I think they do care, and I think the Toshiba dealers are watching what's going on with Toshiba very, very closely because it is important to them. It's important to them, their customers, their employees. So again, I see that as a differentiating factor that I haven't seen in any other industry where it's not easy to make changes to your business as dramatic as manufacturing. And people will say, well, I can switch manufacturers. Of course you can, but it's not that easy and it takes a lot of work. And so the commitment that you make to each other becomes really, really important. And so the health of both parties is also very important. And I know that our dealers are much happier with us now, with the kind of financials we're posting and the product availability and all those pieces than they were a year ago. And, they were right to challenge us and make sure we knew how painful it was to them. So, yeah, I saw the Toshiba thing, and I think, having lived through something similar a few years ago, it's hard. It's hard. And we all believe in the survival of the fittest. I think we all do. We all think that, the better companies will survive. So I think the most important thing is that we create good companies that these dealers can depend on, that they can depend on for good product, innovative product, solutions, support, financial support. That's our responsibility. And as long as that continues, then anything that changes here will be okay,
Yeah, great answer. I had a conversation with someone not too long ago who was speculating about, well, this is going to happen and that's going to happen and this and all these, really, okay, obvious speculation, right? And they asked me how I felt about it, and I said, it doesn't matter to me. And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, because it'll sort itself out. So spending that time trying to imagine the what if scenarios, it doesn't bring any nobility to the conversation. All it does is distract you from doing the business you need to do.
Yeah.
And I think the two things you touched on, I really admire. Number one, it's a vested interest in mutual success, right? That's the bridge you all have to walk across every single day when you're dealing with dealers. And the second part of it is it's valuation, right? So the dealers at the end of the day, they have to look at you and say, hey, Laura, look, I need to make some serious decisions here about whatever it might be. And I need your greatest expertise to help me keep my valuation and my business where it should be. And that's got to be a responsibility you sound like, and you sure carry it well.
I do, and I don't take it lightly. And I've had some really important conversations, frankly, and honestly, not even with my own dealers, but sometimes with my own dealers that are about, hey, I'm ready to sell. Where should I go? And or I'm ready to pass on to the next generation. What do you think is important? Do you think this is the right person? And boy, I lose sleep over those conversations because I know that, not that they're going to take everything I say and say, oh, Laura said to do it this way. But I think that's a momentous decision, whether it's to sell your business or to transfer your business or transition your business. Those are momentous decisions, and they should not be made lightly. And they should be made with as much information. So I'm always honored when I'm asked for my opinion, but I take the weight of that really seriously because, boy, oh boy, that's a big one. And I do think that, again, it's another differentiator. I mean, who asked their manufacturer what's the next, or who asked their old manufacturer? I mean, or someone that they just know. And I will tell you that I am not only honored but humbled by the request, because I always look at these owners as being some pretty savvy, smart business people. So when they asked for my opinion, I was like, really? Okay. But it's funny. We're having a lot more of those conversations, Mike, and I know you know this because I'm sure you are as well, which is we do have a shift happening in our business. There is a little bit of an inflection point, for lack of a better term, but we are seeing people say, I'm done, but I want the business to survive under, another umbrella, or I'm going to transition it, or, I'm going to do something different, whatever that different is. And that's going to have an impact. It's going to have an impact tomorrow and 6 months and 2 years from now. So, but it's inevitable. I mean, that's the evolution of the industry. People can't work forever, nor should they really, right? We all
Right.
want to do other things too. So, it's supposed to it's like when you say goodbye to your children, right? It's supposed to happen. You're supposed to, help people transition. And so anything we can do to make that a little bit easier, whether it's extra support or, advice or connections, we'll do it.
Well, I think I've been advocating when I took the stage at ECS, and I keep going back to that, but I've been advocating changing the name from dealer, to workplace services provider. And it's sometimes the little decisions that have monumental returns. So if you keep calling yourself a dealer, you're not going to really change much, right? So I'm kind of curious for the rest of, your new year, right, which starts
I
pretty
know,
quick here.
I'm the big kid, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll jump ahead a little bit, but where do you see strategically the dealers need to invest for a greater success in the years ahead?
So, yeah, I mean, there's probably several time frames we could look at, right? There's the kind of super short term, there's medium term, and there's a long term. And, I don't think anybody's of the illusion that this business is going to all of a sudden expand, right, and start growing. And when I say this, I'm talking the very traditional sort of copier, right? No one believes that business is going to all of a sudden start throwing off even single digit growth, right? 5, 6, 7%. Here's the challenge though, and I totally get this, but individual dealers can still get growth. They absolutely can, because they're far as I know, there isn't a dealer in this business yet that has 100% market share in their market, right? So as long as that exists, there's still growth for dealers at an individual level. But I do believe everybody's kind of looking at the horizon saying, a deal they got 6 years ago that had 50 machines now is 35, some A4s, so their ability to adapt to that reality is important. And then it comes down to individuals. Here's the good news, and I think you guys are a big part of the reason why this is happening. There's a lot of choices. There's a ton of choices as to where do you want to grow. It used to be, I'll fax, I'll pick up copiers, or I'll throw some A4 in, or I'll do managed print. There were less choices, and they were really obvious choices. You still had to do them well. Now that the choices, I loved when we started talking about electric charging stations and
Yeah.
water and IT services and cloud services. I think now it's all about, can you find good providers for you? Do they support you in the way you need to be supported? And what does your market look like? Is it saturated with IT services? Then find something else to do. If you think that's an opportunity, then invest. So I think whereas before it was one or two things and we all said the same stuff, I think now if you're not having really personal, and when I mean personal, I mean personal about the business, but personal conversations with your providers and people like you, Mike, and the rest of the consortium, if you're not having conversations about, here's what my market looks like, here's what my talent looks like, what kind of talent do you have, here's what I'm willing to invest, what are my choices? Because those three things can change your choices from a dozen to two. And then who are the best providers for that? So, and do I build it or do I buy it? Do I grow? So I think everybody has choices. And by the way, a growth choice is to stay in the market and just go after more customers. That's a perfectly fine growth choice. But we tend to be here at Konica Minolta, we're a little bit more focused on diversity and looking for diversification models that can align. So that's our pitch. But, there's lots of choices. It's just picking the right one. And that's not always easy. I think sometimes there's a lot of peer-to-peer discussion. And that's again, one of the beauties of this business. But just because it worked for so-and-so in, Oklahoma doesn't mean it's going to work for you in Seattle. So you have to really think hard. I love the dealer groups. I think they help ask the right questions and provide information for people to make decisions. And then, talk it out.
Well, it's pretty clear that, and I love your message. at the end of the day, be prudent, right? Be bold, but be prudent.
Do your homework, yeah. Do your homework.
Do your homework. And the last 12 months or so, I really had a wonderful opportunity to get to know the personal side of you. And it's been, I saw you at Fog. You can hit a great ball, and you had a lot of fun, and you got a lot of work done over there. But then I saw you joined us for the ride, and I'm kind of curious. We work hard, on those motorcycles. What was your takeaway from that whole experience?
Oh gosh, that was probably this is true statement, one of the highlights of my year. And it was, don't take anything bad about this. It was a really crappy year, and that stood out as just such a great few days for me. I think I was surprised at my own sort of connection to it. How quickly I found myself wanting to be there, excited to be there, and just soaking it all in. First of all, you guys have an amazing connection with each other, and that's really fun to watch, by the way. It's like this really cool club that I get to hang out with. I'm not a member, but I can still hang out with them. It was much more emotional than I expected. That actually caught me off guard a few times. I thought, oh my gosh, Laura, are you tired? Because you're having it was a very strong emotional reaction to it. But I think for me, we talked about this early on. I think you used the word brotherhood. To me, it's like this little microcosm of what exists in the whole channel. And part of what you see is you guys pull in all these people and created something. I love to use the term lightning in a bottle. I use it a lot, but it doesn't happen very often. But to me, I sort of see that event as a little bit of lightning in a bottle. I mean, you coalesce and do something that is really hard, by the way, but you do it with you give so much to make it happen for so many people, and it's just a cool thing. And I'm waiting for the dates for this year. I gotta talk to GQ and
Yeah. In fact, we have a call tomorrow. We'll get you the date soon. And hopefully you can find a day or two to join us on the RV.
no, my goal is to get down there and provide a little support, and, and also it's just kind of fun to hang out with you guys. You really,
Well, it's one of those things where you can check your weapons at the door, and we're all just in it, and we're having fun, and we're doing things for good reasons,
yeah.
So, and I was thrilled you were there. I mean, I was very happy to see you there, and I know the guys and the other ladies were happy to see you there too. So hopefully again. So final couple of quick questions, and the message that you would want to kick off your new year for your dealers. If you were gonna say, hey guys, gals, this is what you got to hear this. What is it you would want to say?
Yeah, so it'll sound, and I keep trying to find cooler ways to say it or fancier ways to say it, but to me, this year is all about growth. And it was great that you asked me that question before. I didn't know you were going to do that, but because I think we sort of have bought into this. Oh well, we're never going to get back to 19 levels, or we're never going to back. Yes, we are. In fact, I believe this in my heart of hearts, we can get past 19. We can get past 18. We can continue to grow this business because, again, there isn't a single entity in this business that has 100% share. And that means that there's opportunity to grow, whether it's at a dealership, in a region, at a manufacturer. So I think my message to my own team, which will then get, taken beyond our walls, is this is a year of growth. And whether you're and here's the harder part. We have to do it without necessarily adding a ton of people. So what are the innovative ways? Are we starting to talk more about, at the dealer level, e-commerce or more efficient ways of reaching customers and delivering information? I had a really interesting call today with an analyst about the fact that sales reps in the old days were the creators and delivery mechanism for all information about whatever the manufacturer was selling, right? That's what we did. We pulled together our sheets, and we sat down, or we eventually started showing PowerPoints on laptops. We were delivering the information. That's not the case today. Today, customers are going out and doing all this research. But so some people might say, well, what do you need salespeople for? It's our job to control that information and turn that information into something that customers can actually use. So I forget how they actually put it. I wish I could remember. I might have written it down, but it was about helping the customers kind of get that information into an actionable, usable way, right? So that it's actually something they can do something with. So we no longer deliver all the information. We no longer control all the information they have access to. So it's our job to help them sort of distill that information into an actionable decision. And to me, you can sell more product if you figure out how to corral and take that message. We can deliver more information and more product with the same amount of people. And that to me is going to be the key, because we all know it's been really hard to hire. It's hard to keep. And frankly, there's just aren't people banging down doors to come into this business, which shame on them, because they should. But so what do we do with what we have? How do we grow with what we have? And you're going to hear that a lot from us about efficiencies and about managing information and about training salespeople in this new delivery is not the key anymore. It's about helping customers manage the information and make decisions. And that's a different skill set, way different. So growth, it's all about growth.
Well, the message for all of you out there, let's be real clear. Laura and Konica Minolta is about growth. And that growth, I'm going to make a leap of faith here in large part. Hey, nobody's got 100% market share, so go for it.
Go for it.
And secondarily, you're going to be providing, I assume, alternative business opportunities.
Always, yeah. No, we're always looking for what can we help you sell besides the copier to that same set of customers or to new customers. So that, yeah, all of that still is our key messages, and we can help them grow.
Yeah, and you bring up, an interesting probably segue point here. Information I think we've all learned the last few years that information can come at you 100,000 different ways, and it has absolutely little or no connection to truth sometimes. So you have to study, you have to learn, you have to seek facts and make important decisions. So that message I really love hearing from you, because it's not necessarily misinformation intentional, but it's out there and you have to sort through it and make good decisions.
Someone posted, I think it was the note from Wes McDonald, which I love, where he said, "This exists because it's on Wikipedia, so therefore it must be true." And it's like, that's how our customers think sometimes. So we have to be the ones that say, yeah, not so much. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what other information is out there that may either support or dispel that information. So,
Yep. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Wes too. So a couple of quick questions as we close out. Do you have a favorite Frank Sinatra or Tony Bennett song?
oh God, Mike, you're going to hate me. I actually don't have, I mean, I could have this, but that would be so bad. I am much more of like a 70s rock girl.
Okay.
I grew up listening to Fleetwood Mac, and actually this morning on my ride in, Silver Springs played, and it gave me such a great feeling. I even said it out loud in my car. I do talk to myself in my car a lot. I said, wow, today's going to be a good day. So I'm a little bit more from that genre.
Well,
Sorry.
I was just hoping you stumbled across one someplace, but
It wouldn't be an accurate representation. So yeah, you can sort of picture me with my gauzy, flower child shirt on and my, yeah, that's a little bit more my speed, but sorry.
well, maybe I can offer a little bit of homework for you. Next time I see you, you can pick one.
When I see you, I'll make sure I find a Sirius XM or something that I can listen to.
Yeah, exactly. And so, literally, the last question I have for you, and it's a little bit of probably personal motivation. What motivates Laura to get up in the morning and actually do what you do and do it as well as you do? What's that thing that drives you?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, first of all, this is going to sound kind of funny, but I put my workout clothes on my dresser every night. So that gets me out of the bed because get those on, get yourself in the gym and get going. So that's one thing. But I think, I always wake up. I'm a good morning person. I have a pretty good kind of outlook at the beginning of every day. It doesn't always last through the whole day. There are some days where I just sort of mope home, but most days I wake up and I'm pretty pumped, and I usually am bursting with ideas that I can't wait to get going on. So to me, it's more about, oh God, yeah, I can't wait to, oh man, I got to call that person. I can't wait. I've got something to tell them. And so it's kind of situational. I'm not one of these that wants to get up and conquer the world, but I definitely wake up a lot of times thinking about either people or some idea or somebody I want to talk to. And that gets me going. And the good news is, like I said, I am a morning person. I love the morning, and I find, a really good peace, and I love drinking my coffee, looking out at my bird feeders. So yeah, I'm kind of corny that way, but it really is just about getting started, getting going on the day. It's gonna, most days, and someone once said to me, if you have one bad day out of 10, that's about right. That's about where I sit. One bad day out of 10, that means 9 great days out of 10, and I'm pretty much there most of the time. Maybe not always at the end of a quarter or a month, but most days, most days I'm there.
Well, I think that's a great saying, and I'm going to probably hijack it a little bit, but it seems to me, knowing you, if you have a bad day, I don't think anybody sees it. So,
There's a few people. There's a few people that go, oh boy,
oh boy,
avoid her desk. But no, I try to be. But I will say this one thing, and I think it was, I forget who said it to me, but they were like, don't ever play poker. You would be terrible at it. Because I do sort of wear my heart on my sleeve. And so
yeah.
if I'm having a tough day, you will know it. If you're sitting in this office, you'll know. But I can be pulled out of it pretty quick. I like a good laugh, and I can be pulled out of it pretty fast.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, very informative. Konica Minolta is focused on growth next year. So, for all you dealers out there, be prepared. Laura's on the warpath.
I am.
And again, we're honored to have you on the show. We wish you great success for this current fiscal year. You've been fun to always work with, very respectful, very supportive. So you're sitting in my alma mater building. So that's where I was born and raised. So have a great day, great end of the year, and we'll talk to you soon. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
Laura.
You too. And thank you for the opportunity. Good
My
luck.
pleasure. Our pleasure. Thank you.